Irene and I remember stories about living in deeply anxious times. Let me share a few of them with you. One of our parents, I'll leave the parents' names unsaid. One of our parents remembers hiding in a barn during World War II while the Gestapo shot and killed every member of another family, including children, also hiding in the barn. They were all in the barn because the Nazis had discovered these families were hiding Jewish people. Here's a pic of how some of these people hid, a hiding place rediscovered in an Amsterdam basement during a 1996 renovation. I don't know if the Jewish people who hid here survived. Those were anxious times. One of our parents remembers carrying packages through town at night as a 10-year-old. She was told she was delivering shoes for her father's shop, but she thought these trips were really strange. At night? And why should she be out at night? Why didn't these customers just come to the store? After the war, she learned that the packages that she was delivering contained counterfeit identification and ration cards and even TNT. Would you send your 10-year-old girls into the Nazi-patrolled evening to help the underground? During the day, the same grandparents hid young Dutchmen hiding so that the Nazis couldn't send them to forced labor camps. Here's a pic. It's poor quality right after liberation of my great-grandfather, my grandparents and aunts, and the two men who survived the war by hiding in the house. We don't remember their names now, but they did go on to have families of their own. The thing is, you couldn't talk about these underground activities to anyone, not even to the people you went to church with. You didn't know who you could trust. Everyone was anxious. At the same time, back here in Canada, your parents, grandparents followed the progress of Canadian troops into the Netherlands, fighting bitter battles for the Scheldt, the Rhineland, the Zuiderzee, and Groningen. Your parents and their uncles and their cousins were there, boots on the ground, sailing corvettes, and in the air. Those times were anxious for all Canadians here and all Dutch people in the Netherlands. You know, it's sometimes hard for us to remember that. I mean, we were just kids, or maybe weren't even born yet. So what we'd really like to do today is to have a barbecue on the patio outside. And we'd like to talk about the surprising Blue Jays or how we're disappointed in the Maple Leafs. However, in a small yet significant way, I think, with COVID and the nation mobilized to overcome it, we're getting a taste of what it was like for our grandparents and parents in wartime, aren't we? You know, more than 9,000 Canadians have already died of COVID before the second wave. And that is already more than the 7,600 Canadians who died liberating the Netherlands. Many are buried here in the Grosbeek Cemetery, pictured. Of course, our battle is not against Nazis, but a virus. Our loose lips won't sink ships, but they might pass the virus along. We worry about this. We sometimes have a pit in our stomach. We struggle with depression and lassitude. We have what Irene calls COVID days. These are anxious times for us too. Let me count some of the ways. I'm sure you can identify. We're anxious about loved ones who live in nursing homes or who live in the tight quarters of some independent living homes. We're anxious about our kids and going to school or not going to school. We're anxious about whether they may catch COVID in school or be asymptomatic and spread it to older folks innocently. We're anxious for our frontline workers who work for too little pay, but with few complaints and often with great courage. We're anxious for the poor who can't avoid staying out of transit, who can't pay their rent or mortgages, who have hungry kids, who don't have good internet in the house for remote instruction. We're anxious about whether it's safe to visit our brothers and sisters and parents and kids. And to me, this is kind of real. We are anxious about how to negotiate such visits outside of our homes with respect to masks or going inside or sanitization of dishes and doorknobs, and whether we should ask if our hosts have engaged in risky behavior of late. It's embarrassing to have to check up on each other, to doubt each other, to not have a clear set of social conventions to live by in these new situations. Oh, and we're anxious for ourselves. We're alone more than we'd like. We're worried about our savings. We miss singing and prayer. It's like we're always walking on eggs. And I haven't even mentioned all the non-COVID issues that are in the news right now that give us anxiety. The situation in the States, which totally seems out of control. Fire and hurricanes and global warming and what it means for our grandkids. Racism and making Black Lives Matter is on our minds, but we don't know exactly what to do, and it's hard to find people to talk to about it. Anxiety. Are there antidotes? Well, I'm not going to stand here and say, trust in the Lord and all shall be well. That's not actually how the world works. The sun shines on both the righteous and the wicked, on all of us, regardless of citizenship or creed. One thing I want to say, however, don't be in denial about your anxiety. If you're depressed, or if you're paralyzed by fear, or if you're struggling with panic attacks, see a doctor or a therapist. While you might also go to your minister for prayer, if you had a heart attack, you'd go to your doctor first. See a therapist if you need a boost. It's really, really okay. But our scripture reading has 3 additional things to say about dealing with anxiety at times like this too. It isn't everything that could be said, but listen to these 3 things as well, very briefly. 1, we read that the wicked are overthrown by their evil doing, but the righteous find a refuge in their integrity. Integrity. I'm not so much talking about inner integrity as I am about community integrity. Community integrity, village peace, and national unity of purpose is a central concern of the Old Testament law as the Israelites tried to build a just and good nation. So when it comes to COVID, think of integrity in this way. Right now, it is as if we were all crew in a sinking boat. So it has to be all hands on deck. And we're all bailing. We're all handing a pail up from the bottom of the boat to the deck and then pouring the water overboard in a long chain. We do so together in a chain to keep the boat from sinking, all of us together. You see, if the oneness, the integrity of the community, of the anti-COVID bailing chain is broken, even in just one spot or two, the leak is going to get out of control and we're going down. Bailing together as a national and provincial team will just manage to keep us all afloat until we get to a safe harbor and can fix the real problem, which is the virus. We find refuge from anxiety in the integrity, in the oneness and single-mindedness and neighborliness of working together, following all the guidelines and precautions we were asked to in order to keep each other safe till then. 2, we read that wisdom is at home in the mind of the one who has understanding, but it is not known in the heart of fools. We're tempted by the flood of disinformation, propaganda, and conspiracy theories out there on the internet. We are tempted to pick and choose just those so-called facts that suit us. You know the scurrilous internet memes I'm talking about. Things we read like masks don't work, or vaccines are all always dangerous, or social distancing, well, that's for sissies like Joe Biden, or young people don't get sick and die, so they can ignore COVID. Don't fall for it. Be wise in your understanding by seeking out the direction of a majority of experts. I mean, if you needed cancer treatments, and some of you have, or if you need a heart stent or diabetes meds, you go to medical experts, not the internet. You don't have polio, and your blood pressure is under control, and you have a new knee, not because you ordered these treatments on Amazon after diagnosing yourself, but because you went directly to the medical experts. Why should it be different with COVID? Sure, you can get helpful background information about all these diseases on the internet, and especially from the sites of hospitals and universities and the government, but you have to be discerning. And in the end, don't go for conspiracy. Go for your doctor. That's the wisdom of understanding that our text encourages, deep understanding. Finally, we read that righteousness exalts a nation, and a servant who deals wisely has the king's favor. Righteousness means, most simply, making work of following the just and good rules that protect not only you, but the least and the last and all the marginalized around us. Now, we don't have kings anymore unless you want to count Queen Elizabeth. I'm lost here. But let's obey our modern version of the king, our government. And the interesting thing is, if we act with mutual integrity, which I spoke of earlier, if we stay properly informed, if we follow the rules, we will at least in part be healing our anxiety too. So that's it. 4 ways to work at your anxiety. First, get professional help if you need it. Second, there's communal integrity. We all work together for each other until there's a cure. We wisely, in the third place, we wisely seek deep understanding. And that's nearly always from the experts. And finally, we individually obey the COVID rules for the good of society. I know, I feel it. These are anxious times. We are all bailing, individually, in our own families, and all together as a community to stay afloat, to stay on course, and to keep our spirits up. But remember, Holland was liberated by Canadians and the underground. Nazis were defeated. Canada is a free country where our families and friends have mostly flourished. We will get through this COVID stuff too. Not by pretending all is well, but by doing as Jesus said, by loving God through loving our neighbors. We will, like our grandparents in World War II, do what we must. And then, soon and very soon, we'll have a welcome back service to beat the many, many that we did in the past. I can't wait.